Alright, my name is Landon West, and I built this iMessage wrapped application for our final project. This gives you more insights into your iMessage data, kind of, hence the wrapped name, kind of like Spotify wrapped, and kind of just give you some fun numbers to work with. So, right here we have our overview. You can see total messages sent and received, people texted, and then just some fun, quick data snapshots. And you can see we show our favorite emojis down here. You can select by time frame, so kind of switch things up. We'll stick with the year for now, but we'll hop right into messages. So you can see we have tons of data to work with here. You can see the average length of messages, peak day. Back in August, I was on a cruise, so lots of texting back home. You can see that the group chats messaging was just really bumping, really active during the summer and fall. Reply times are kind of a fun thing to look into and compute. You can see that my dad is the quickest to text me back, so good on him. And then one of my buddies takes forever, over half a day to get back to me, so he needs some work. But contacts, you can see just a quick view of rankings of who you text the most. I won't click into those just because there's some more phone number information there, but group chats is one of the fun pages. You can see, click into any of your group chats, and you can kind of just go through, see who's carrying, who's lacking. You can see usage over time. This one's declining just with graduation coming up and people getting busy. Reactions is super fun. You can see kind of who gets the most reactions based on types, who's given out the most. So those kind of directly tie into these superlatives of, most relatable, biggest hater, most questioned. Reactions also has its own kind of tab just for ones you've gotten and ones you've sent based on the type. So you can see everyone loves to use the love reaction. You can see the top contributors as well, regardless of group chat. Words, you got kind of a word cloud here to see, what language you use the most in your text. Pretty basic, but emojis the same thing. You can see that, got the laughing emoji up there, front and center. And then settings, just some debug tools for me while developing. Kind of make sure things were fully refetched, filter out any kind of messages from spam numbers that would throw off the data, and even just ignore some of my work numbers that send me authentication codes that kind of throw things off, since I authenticate a lot through work. But iCloud Sync is enabled, so you can view pretty much everything you just saw right on the phone, which is really nice if you wanted to just check out the group chat data. With that said, all computation is done on the Mac itself, since it's accessing local database iMessage data, and never sending it to a server of any sort, to avoid privacy concerns. The only thing that's getting sent is that kind of just straight up data snapshot. Speaking of the data side of things, we'll look at the code here for a little bit. You can see we have this database reader file. This was all set up through our agentic process, obviously, but one of the main processes I followed was I'd send codecs kind of raw output data from a query, and then it was able to kind of reverse engineer and determine how to set up these all these different methods with SQL that would get us load group chat photo paths. So you can see all sorts of documentation, but we really had to teach codecs the patterns of how this data was formatted and how to get specific pieces so that we could actually run computations on them and get stats. So you can see all sorts of these just small simple flags, Boolean values, but this is kind of the heart of the system, pulling the data, getting it so that we can access it and use it. Contact resolver was also a good file that I didn't actually know we'd really need to make use of. With the iMessage data, we're never given these contact photos. We have to map it to the contacts application itself. And so that involves, kind of requesting access to the application and then, resolving it. Some contacts we may not have set a photo for, and some contacts we haven't even created a contact for. So it's kind of a fun, tricky solution to that. But yeah, as far as the agentic process, I found that the loop way of doing things was not as effective, other than just getting things set up and going. Past that, I found that just straight up talking to the Codex chat was more effective. I was able to kind of fine tune a lot of the UI, which was in a rough spot, and tell it exactly what I wanted, just in terms of behavior. So specific stats, even just little hover interactions and navigations, and look of things. But found that the agentic process, is really, really good to use, and it got me pretty far with this application, especially when some of the data is pretty hard to work with and filter through. And I spent a lot of time debugging some specific issues with the certain data being populated wrong and being thrown off. So the agent process of that was really helpful. But yeah, that about wraps it up.